One day the noise fades, the applause stops, and what remains is you and the life you lived. We spend our youth trying to prove something to the world, trying to be seen, trying to be needed, trying to be approved. We run for success, we chase relationships, we carry expectations, ours and others. But very few people pause and ask a simple question when they first grow old: what will truly matter to me? Because old age is not just about weak knees or grey hair. Old age is a mirror. It reflects how you lived, what you valued, what you neglected. And if you don't prepare your inner world early, old age can feel very lonely, even in a crowded room. So today, let me walk with you through 7 gentle truths, not to make you afraid of aging, but to help you age with peace, dignity, and quiet strength. In the early years of our life, we unknowingly make a dangerous agreement with the world. I will be valuable if you clap for me. And the world nods politely. For some time, we study harder not because we love learning, but because we want praise. We work longer, not because the work fulfills us, but because we want recognition. We dress, speak, post, and perform, all with one hidden question in our heart: did they notice me? And when they do, it feels good. It feels like validation. It feels like proof that we matter. But here is a truth. Life teaches very gently. Applause is not permanent. It is situational. It depends on relevance, timing, trends, and convenience. Today they clap because you are useful. Tomorrow they forget because life moves on. Not out of cruelty, out of busyness. Most people are not ignoring you intentionally. They are simply occupied with their own survival, their own dreams, their own fears. But when your self-worth is built on applause, something dangerous happens. You start living for noise instead of meaning. You start chasing approval instead of alignment. You start measuring your value by reactions, not by values. And this is where the problem begins. Because when life enters its later chapters, the crowd naturally thins. The phone rings less. The invitations reduce. The spotlight shifts. And if your heart has been trained to breathe only when others clap, the silence of old age feels suffocating. Many people don't suffer in old age because of physical weakness. They suffer because the applause stopped and no one taught them how to live without it. You see, applause is addictive. The more you receive it, the more you crave it. And the more you crave it, the more control others have over your emotions. One compliment can lift your day. One criticism can ruin your sleep. That is not strength. That is emotional dependency. Real maturity begins when you slowly reclaim your self-respect from public opinion. When you learn to say, I know who I am, even if no one is watching. This does not mean you become arrogant. It means you become anchored. A tree that needs constant applause is like a plant that needs daily praise to grow. Strong roots don't ask for noise. They grow silently. In old age, the strongest people are not the most famous ones. They are the ones who made peace with anonymity early. They learn to enjoy their tea without an audience. They learn to walk without being seen. They learn to feel proud without posting about it. And because of that, silence does not scare them. It comforts them. So how do you practice this while you are still young? You start by doing some good things without telling anyone. You start by choosing integrity even when no one will reward you for it. You start by celebrating small wins privately, not because they are small, but because they are yours. You learn to clap for yourself, not loudly, not in ego, but in quiet acknowledgement. I did my best today. I stayed honest. I showed up even when it was hard. That inner applause is stable. It doesn't depend on trends. It doesn't fade with age. External applause makes you popular. Internal applause makes you peaceful. And peace is what you will crave later in life, not popularity. So don't wait for old age to teach you this lesson harshly. Learn it gently now. Detach from the hunger to be constantly noticed. Detach from the pressure to impress everyone. detached from the fear of being unseen. Because the person who learns to live without applause never feels empty when the room grows quiet. They sit with themselves, smile softly, and know, my life did not need witnesses to be meaningful. When the applause fades, when the roles begin to loosen their grip, one question rises quietly inside a person: who am I when I am not busy? Most people never prepare for this moment. In youth, life is loud, deadlines speak, responsibilities shout, ambitions keep knocking. You wake up with purpose because the world demands something from you. Your calendar tells you who you are. Your designation introduces you before you speak. And slowly, without realizing it, your identity gets outsourced. I am important because my work is important. I matter because people depend on me. I exist because I am productive. This works well until one day it doesn't. Retirement comes, energy reduces, responsibilities shift to younger hands, and suddenly the outer structure that defined you for decades starts dissolving. This is where many people feel lost, not because they are weak, but because they were never taught to build an inner world. They spend their entire life developing skills for the outside world, but very little time understanding the world within. So when silence arrives, it feels uncomfortable. When stillness comes, it feels empty. When nothing is demanded, they feel useless. But understand this clearly, the problem is not old age. The problem is an inner life that was never nurtured. Your inner world should not retire when your job does. Because long after the business card is forgotten, you still wake up every morning with yourself. This is why wise traditions always emphasized inner education alongside outer success. Not just what you do, but who you become. Not just how much you earn, but how deeply you understand life. Not just how fast you grow, but how grounded you remain. An inner world is built slowly. It is built when you learn to sit quietly without needing entertainment. It is built when you reflect instead of react. It is built when you pray not only for outcomes, but for understanding. Faith plays a powerful role here. Not blind belief, but living connection. When you have faith, you are never truly unemployed. You are never truly alone. You are never without purpose. You may not be needed by the world the same way, but you are still held by something greater than the world. People who cultivate faith, wisdom, and reflection early do not fear slowing down, because their joy does not come from speed, it comes from depth. They enjoy simple mornings. They enjoy meaningful conversations. They enjoy reading, contemplating, remembering, and blessing. They don't panic when life becomes quieter. They finally hear themselves. You see, noise keeps us distracted from ourselves. Silence introduces us to ourselves. If you have avoided your inner world all your life, silence will feel frightening. But if you have befriended it, silence will feel sacred. So how do you start building this inner world now? You begin by creating small spaces of stillness. 10 minutes without a screen. A walk without earphones. A few lines read not for productivity but for perspective. You ask deeper questions. What kind of person am I becoming? What do I believe in when things don't go my way? What values will stay with me even when everything else is taken away? You stop running from discomfort and start listening to it, because discomfort is often a teacher, not an enemy. And slowly something beautiful happens. You realize that your worth was never tied to your output. Your existence does not need constant justification. You are valuable simply because you are alive. This realization is extremely liberating, especially in old age, when you no longer need to prove anything. You finally start living. You don't chase meaning. You carry it. You don't fear retirement. You welcome reflection. You don't feel empty. You feel complete. An outer world can collapse at any time, but an inner world, once built, becomes your lifelong shelter. So don't postpone this work thinking you'll do it later. Later comes sooner than we expect. Build skills for your career, yes, but also build wisdom for your soul. Because when the world stops asking, your inner world should still have something to say. There is a phase in life where being needed feels like love. When someone calls you for advice, when someone depends on your decisions, when someone cannot move forward without your approval, it feels reassuring, it feels important, it feels like proof that you matter. And slowly, without noticing, being needed becomes your identity. You wake up feeling valuable because someone requires you. You feel alive because someone cannot manage without you. Your self-worth becomes tied to usefulness. At first, this seems noble. After all, helping others is good, serving others is meaningful. But there is a subtle difference between service and dependency. Service is giving from fullness. Dependency is clinging for validation. The danger begins when your happiness depends on whether people still need you. Because life, by design, moves people forward. Children grow, students become independent, teams learn to function without you. And that is not failure, that is success. But for someone who tied their identity to being needed, this transition feels painful. It feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. It feels like loss of purpose. Many people in old age suffer not because no one loves them, but because no one needs them the same way anymore. And that realization hurts deeply. They say things like, earlier everyone used to ask me, earlier my advice mattered, earlier I was important. But understand this truth gently. Your worth was never meant to come from being needed. If someone needs you forever, you didn't empower them. You trapped them, and you trapped yourself too. True love prepares people to walk without leaning on you. This is especially important for parents. Parents often sacrifice their entire identity for their children. Dreams, interests, health, friendships. And when children grow up and create their own lives, the parent feels empty. Not because the child did something wrong, but because the parent forgot to remain a whole person. Love does not mean dissolving yourself. Love means supporting growth, even when that growth makes you less central. Detachment here does not mean coldness. It means emotional maturity. It means you learn to bless from a distance. You guide when asked, but you don't interfere. You stay available, but you don't control. You stop measuring your value by how often your phone rings. In old age, the most peaceful people are those who learn to say internally, I am okay even if no one needs me today. They don't feel threatened by independence. They don't feel bitter when people move on. They don't complain about being forgotten. Because their sense of worth comes from being, not doing. They enjoy existence without obligation. They wake up without needing to fix anyone. They smile without needing to advise anyone. They rest without guilt. This is not laziness, this is freedom. So how do you practice this lesson while life is still demanding things from you? You start by consciously stepping back sometimes, not because you don't care, but because you trust others to grow. You resist the urge to overmanage. You allow people to make mistakes. You let them learn their own lessons. You replace the thought, they can't do it without me, with they are capable. You learn to enjoy moments where you are not required. Sit quietly, observe life without intervening. Let things unfold without your constant involvement. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Ego resists irrelevance, but slowly peace replaces pressure. You realize something profound. Your presence is valuable even when you are not useful. Your existence does not need justification. In old age, this lesson becomes a blessing. You don't chase attention. You don't demand involvement. You don't manipulate emotions to stay relevant. You become light, not burdensome. You become calm, not controlling. You become wise, not intrusive. People come to you not because they need you, but because they want you, and that kind of connection is pure. So don't wait for life to forcibly reduce your role. Voluntarily loosen your grip now. Give fully, but don't cling. Love deeply, But don't attach your identity to being needed, because the person who learns to let go early never feels lost later. They sit peacefully in old age knowing, I contributed and I also learned to step aside, and that balance is true maturity. In youth, the body feels like a machine that will always cooperate. You push it late into the night, you feed it whatever is convenient, you ignore the signals it sends, and the body, patient and loyal, adjusts, so we assume it will always adjust. But the body is not keeping score in the moment. It is recording everything, every skipped meal, every restless night, every habit was postponed with the promise, I'll take care of it later. Later always comes. In old age, you don't live with your body, you live inside it. And the quality of that experience depends heavily on how you treated it earlier. Health is not about looking young. Health is about remaining independent. The greatest fear in old age is not death. It is dependent, needing help for basic things, losing control over your own movement, feeling like a burden instead of a participant in life. Many people think taking care of the body is selfish, but neglecting it is far more selfish, because someone else will have to carry the consequences later. The body you ignore today becomes the body that demands attention tomorrow. Strength in old age is dignity, the ability to walk without fear, to sit and stand without stance, to breathe without struggle. These are not luxuries, they are freedoms. And freedom is built slowly, through small daily choices. This doesn't mean becoming obsessed with fitness or appearance. It means becoming respectful. You eat not just to satisfy taste, but to nourish life. You move not to compete, but to stay capable. You rest not out of laziness, but out of wisdom. Many people say, I don't have time to take care of my health, but later they have nothing but time to manage illness. Your body speaks softly at first, through fatigue, stiffness, discomfort. If ignored, it raises its voice. Through pain, disease, limitation. Listening early is far less painful than learning late. Another important truth, the body carries emotions too. Unresolved stress, suppressed anger, constant anxiety. These don't stay only in the mind, they settle into the body. So taking care of your body also means taking care of your inner climate. Learning to slow down, learning to breathe deeply, learning to rest without guilt. You don't have to earn rest, you have to respect your limits. People who age gracefully are not those who worked the hardest, they are those who worked wisely. They understood that the body is not an enemy to conquer, but a companion to care for. In old age, the smallest comforts become priceless. Being able to walk in the morning sun, stretch without pain, sleep without discomfort. These joys are invisible to the young, but sacred to the aged. So start now. Choose one habit that supports your future body. A short walk, a regular sleep time, a moment of stretching, a little less sugar, a little more water. Don't wait for motivation. Care is not driven by motivation, it is driven by responsibility. You may think, I'll fix it later, but the body doesn't forget later. Every act of care is a gift to your future self, and your future self will thank you quietly. By allowing you to live with dignity, old age should not feel like punishment for youth. It should feel like a harvest of wise living. So treat your body like a place you plan to live in for a long time, because you do. Let us now enter a truth that decides whether old age feels heavy or light. Most people think time is what makes us tired, but it is not time, it is an unfinished emotion. Old age becomes painful not because of wrinkles, but because of memories that never healed, unspoken words, arguments that never ended, apologies that pride delayed, anger that became a habit. We often say, I will forgive, but I will not forget. What we don't realize is the body never forgets either. Every unresolved conflict stays inside like a knot, and over the years these knots tighten. That is why some people grow old and become gentle, and others grow old and become bitter. Bitterness is not caused by age, it is caused by stored resentment. Many elderly people relive the same old stories again and again. They repeat them not because they enjoy them, but because those wounds were never allowed to heal. And the mind keeps revisiting pain that the heart never released. Here's a quiet truth. You don't carry grudges into old age intentionally. You simply forget to put them down. At first, anger feels justified. You tell yourself they were wrong, and maybe they were, but holding on to anger is like carrying a burning coal, hoping it will hurt the other person. Years pass, the other person moves on, but you are still carrying the weight. Forgiveness is misunderstood. Forgiveness does not mean what happened was okay. It means you decide not to let it control your peace anymore. Forgiveness is not approval, it is release. In old age, peace becomes more valuable than pride. You no longer want to win arguments, you want to sleep well. You no longer want to prove who was right. You want your heart to feel light. People often say, "But if I forgive, they'll think they were right." Let them think whatever they want. Your peace is not a courtroom verdict. It is a personal decision. Old age teaches a hard lesson. Being right is exhausting. Being at peace is freeing. That is why the happiest elderly people are not those who had perfect lives, but those who made peace with imperfect ones. They learn to say, "It happened. I survived. I let it go." They stopped waiting for closure from others and gave closure to themselves. This also applies to forgiving yourself. Many people carry deep regret into old age. I should have done more. I should have chosen differently. I wasted time. I failed. These thoughts quietly eat away at joy. But listen carefully. You made the best decisions you could with the awareness you had then. Judging your past with your present wisdom is unfair. Growth means understanding, not punishing yourself. Old age should not be a courtroom where you sentence your younger self every day. It should be a place of compassion. Make peace with your past versions. They were learning. Another important part of this lesson: say things while you still can. Don't wait for the right moment. Moments rarely announce themselves. If gratitude is there, express it. If an apology is due, offer it. If love is felt, speak it. Unsaid words become heavy luggage later. Ego often says they should come first. Wisdom says peace is more important than order. You don't lose dignity by softening. You gain freedom. People who release old battles walk lighter, physically and emotionally. Their faces soften, their eyes calm. They don't rehearse arguments in their head. They don't carry emotional weapons everywhere. They live in the present, not in old conversations. So start now. Ask yourself honestly, who do I need to forgive? Not for them, but for myself. What pain am I carrying that no longer serves me? What apology am I delaying because of pride? You don't have to reopen every relationship. Forgiveness does not require reconnection. It requires release. Let go quietly, without announcements, without drama. Just decide. I choose peace. Old age should be a season of lightness, not bitterness, of reflection, not resentment, of calm breathing, not emotional weight. Time will take care of wrinkles, but only you can take care of unresolved pain. And the beautiful thing is, it is never too early to forgive, and never too late to let go. Let us now move into a truth that quietly reshapes how old age is experienced, whether it feels anxious or deeply fulfilling. In the early years of life, we are trained to chase results, marks, money, numbers, outcomes. From childhood, we are rewarded for what we achieve, not for who we become. So we grow up believing that results define our worth. If things work out, we feel successful. If they don't, we feel like failures. This mindset pushes us forward in youth. but it becomes heavy baggage later in life. Because results are time bound, they belong to a phase. And when that phase passes, results lose their relevance. In old age, very few people ask, how much did you earn? How fast did you grow? How many targets did you hit? Instead, the questions become quieter and deeper. Did my life mean something? Did I live with values? Was I a good human being? This is where people either feel content or empty. Those who attach their entire identity to outcomes feel restless when outcomes slow down. They feel invisible when they are no longer producing. They feel anxious when they are no longer competing. But those who attach themselves to meaning remain steady because meaning does not retire, values do not age, character does not become irrelevant. A person who lived only for results often feels lost in old age. But a person who lived by principles feels complete. Meaning comes from intention, not outcome. You may have failed in business, but if you were honest, you lived meaningfully. You may not have achieved everything you dreamed, but if you stayed kind, you lived meaningfully. You may not be remembered for achievements, but if you served quietly, you lived meaningfully. Old age is a season where the soul reviews life, not the resume, and the soul doesn't ask, how impressive was I? It asks, how true was I? This is why detachment from results becomes a blessing. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means effort without obsession, commitment without anxiety, action without ego. You do your best, and then you let go. In youth, we say, I'll be happy when this works out. In maturity, we learn to say, I'll be peaceful regardless. That shift changes everything. People who are attached to results carry pressure everywhere. They cannot rest. They cannot enjoy the present. They are always chasing the next proof of worth. But people who are attached to meaning move gently through life. They don't panic when plans change. They don't collapse when things don't work out. They don't become arrogant when things go well, because their anchor is internal. In old age, this shows clearly. Some people are restless even in retirement. They don't know how to be. They constantly seek stimulation because stillness feels uncomfortable. Others sit peacefully. They observe, they reflect, they smile at small things. The difference is not success. The difference is meaning. Meaning comes from living aligned with your values every day, from telling the truth even when lying was easier, from choosing kindness even when bitterness felt justified, from doing what was right even when it went unnoticed. These things don't show up on awards, but they show up in old age as peace. When you detach from results, you stop carrying regret. You no longer replay, if only I had achieved more. If only I had gone further. Instead, you say, I lived sincerely. I did my best with what I had. That acceptance is powerful. It allows you to sit with life, not fight it. So how do you practice this now? You begin by checking your intention, not just your outcome. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Does this align with my values? Will I respect myself even if this fails? You stop tying your self-worth to success. You stop punishing yourself for things outside your control. You learn to separate effort from ego. When something works, you feel grateful, not proud. When something fails, you feel reflective, not broken. This emotional balance becomes a lifelong asset. Old age then feels like a gentle landing, not a sudden fall. You're not desperate to prove anything. You are not haunted by what-ifs. You are not anxious about being irrelevant. You know that your life mattered, not because of what you achieved, but because of how you lived, and that is a quiet, unshakable confidence. Results fade, meaning remains. So don't wait till life slows down to learn this lesson. Detach from outcomes early. Attach to values deeply. Because in the end, life doesn't ask how high you climbed. It asks how gracefully you walked. And now, let us end where every wise life eventually arrives. Quietly, honestly, and with faith. There comes a stage in life when the world does not ask much from you anymore. No deadlines chasing you, no competition pulling you, no expectations demanding proof, just time, silence, and your own company. For some, this silence feels frightening. For others, it feels like coming home. The difference is not age, the difference is preparation. Those who spend their lives running away from themselves feel lonely when life slows down. But those who learn to sit with their own heart feel peaceful. Faith teaches us a powerful truth. You were never meant to be constantly occupied. You were meant to be aware. Life is not a race that ends with exhaustion. It is a journey that matures into understanding. In old age, you finally realize you don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to hold on tightly anymore. You only need to be aligned with truth, aligned with gratitude, aligned with purpose beyond ego. Faith reminds us that we are not just bodies growing older, we are souls growing deeper. And a soul that has lived honestly never feels empty. It feels complete. So live today in a way that your future self can rest peacefully. Care for your body with respect. Care for your heart with forgiveness. Care for your mind with wisdom. Care for your spirit with faith. Let success make you humble, not proud. Let failure make you reflective, not bitter. Let time make you wiser, not harder. Because in the end, life will not ask how busy you were. It will ask how present you were. And when the noise fades, may you sit in silence and say with a soft smile, I lived truthfully, I loved sincerely, I trusted deeply, and I am at peace. That is not the end of life. That is fulfillment. Walk forward with that awareness, act with that faith, live now so that old age feels not like a loss, but like a gentle, grateful arrival.